Hello friends, this video on human health and diseases part 6 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now let us look at pneumonia. So for pneumonia, the pathogen is a bacteria again. So these are the two types of bacteria that can cause pneumonia. That is Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. So these are the two kinds of bacteria that can cause pneumonia. Now, how do these pathogens enter inside our body? Now, these pathogens generally enter through contaminated air. Now, what do we mean by contaminated air? It means the air which is you can say polluted with these organisms. So that is called a contaminated air. That means it is not a clean air. Now, do we mean to say that these bacteria are present in the air itself? So now how these pathogens enter through contaminated air, that is what we have to see here. Now what happens is when a person is already infected with pneumonia, what happens? He generally tends to sneeze or cough. So that happens. So now the droplets which gets released by that person, where do those droplets go? They remain in the surrounding air. So now if a normal person comes in contact with that person, if somebody else is also nearby, so what tend to happen is when this person inhales, he tends to take in. So let us suppose this is the infected person and this guy is a normal guy who is not infected. He is also normal, but right now he is infected with pneumonia. So now when he sneezes or when he coughs, the droplets of the pathogens remain somewhere here. Now what happens? Now when this guy, he inhales, there are chances that these might get inside his body during inhalation. And this is how the pathogens entry take place in case of pneumonia. So it is always advised not to share utensils with an infected person or to share towels or handkerchiefs, because through all these things the infection might enter your body. That is, the pathogen might enter your body. So once it enters the body, it primarily attacks the lungs. So because it goes through when you inhale it, so from inhalation, during inhalation it passes through your nostrils and then it passes through this tube, the air tube, and finally reaches the lungs. And which part in the lungs does it affect? It affects the alveoli. Where do you have alveoli? Alveoli are these sac-like structures. The terminal ends, like these pharynx will open to form bronchi. Bronchi will further branch out to form bronchioles, and bronchioles will branch out to form alveoli. So alveoli are the main sites for gaseous exchange. That is, it is at this surface of alveoli that oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange takes place. Now in pneumonia, when this pathogen enters and it reaches the lungs, it reaches the alveoli. So what happens as a result? The alveoli gets filled with a fluid. Now when the alveoli gets filled with a fluid, the gaseous exchange cannot happen properly, because normally the alveoli, they are air-filled sac-like structures. Now instead of air, if they are filled with a fluid, so what will happen? Their function will get affected. So alveoli will not be able to exchange gases properly. As a result, the lungs will be damaged. Now in very severe cases, when the pneumonia becomes too severe or the infection is very high, the lungs can get damaged completely as well. So the alveoli gets infected and these are the primary site of gaseous exchange. Now what happens as a result of this infection? So some of the symptoms are high fever, chills. So chills means when you get fever, you tend to shiver a lot. Cough, short of breath. Now see, all these are related to respiratory problems like cough, short of breath. So because in this case your respiratory system is primarily getting affected, so that is why you will see these symptoms. So there will be difficulty in breathing because your alveoli is not able to do their job correctly. Now how do we treat it? Now first of all, it has to be diagnosed using some of the tests like the urine test, mucus test, and the chest x-ray. Now the chest x-ray actually tells you whether the lungs are fine or not. So whether some changes have taken place in the lungs. So this can give you an idea about the type of organism which is causing it. As I said, when you check the lungs, you'll be able to detect if some organisms are present there. If you can find out the organism, so you will know what kind of a disease that organism causes. causes. So it can also show the complications or conditions of pneumonia, like whether the infection has spread to the heart muscle or not, or whether fluid is present in the chest cavity or not. So all those structural changes can be viewed with chest X-ray. Now, what does the mucus test help? Now, in case of severe shortness of breath, or sometimes some patients will have extreme difficulty in breathing, so they might have problems like asthma related to pneumonia. So in such cases, mucus test is done, because they tend to release that mucus quite often. So the test of that mucus will tell the level of infection and the organism which has infected it. And the treatment is again done with a course of antibiotic medication, because here also the pathogen is a bacteria, and antibiotics are extremely effective against bacteria. Now please note that antibiotics are effective only against bacteria, not against all the pathogens, because pathogen can be a virus, it can be a fungi, so antibiotics will not be effective in those cases. However, in case of bacteria, antibiotics are extremely. Thank you. Please visit examfear.com for an easy 4-step learning process absolutely free of cost. Watch video lessons, ask questions, refer notes, and take an online test. Thank you once again.